Second Age of Reason. I had promised you a SciFi Pheasibility series of video talks, and today we're going to have a video talk about a sci-fi technology. We're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to go through kind of like what I call invisibility. Invisibility 101, basics of invisibility. We're going to talk about it because we've seen it from everything from the invisible man to cloaking devices, to various forms of force fields, shields, transduction barriers, and all sorts of interesting things. And we're going to go over some of the physics and implications of these invisibility technologies. Some of them are very simple and old-fashioned. For instance, camouflage is a sort of invisibility. Actually, you're still in plain sight, but because you disguise yourself to match the background, you can't be perceived. That's camouflage. That's the simplest and one of the oldest forms of invisibility. There's another form you could maybe have. It's called hypnotism. You just tell one person and hypnotize them not to see another person. So they'll just walk around, and the person is there and technically in plain sight, but due to hypnotic suggestion, the hypnotized person doesn't see them or perceive them at all. But now let's get more into other forms of invisibility. There are the kind that we have to think of things. Is it optical invisibility, or is it on a different wavelength? For instance, there's like stealth aircraft. Stealth technology has to do with surfaces and geometry and radar. Radar is radio waves. And what stealth does is it makes it so the waves do not bounce back off the object because it is of not a very good shape for reflecting radio waves. And so it's invisible to radio waves, but if you could look at it with your eyes, you would see something. There's something there. That's stealth radio wave invisibility. In fact, radio waves pass through a lot of solid materials. I mean, you can drive down the road and go underneath bridges and even in some tunnels and still hear your radio. That implies that in terms of radio waves, buildings and tunnels and things and bridges are transparent. They're not even like a crystal with diffraction. They just are almost like air in terms of radio waves, the way that passes through them. Maybe slightly foggy. So if you had eyes that could see radio waves, the surface of the Earth would be kind of translucent, like looking at deep water. You could see down a ways into the Earth till it got kind of murky and dark. And plant life and bridges and structures and stuff would be pretty much invisible. You might just see a hint of a smudge in a thing now. Likewise, in other wavelengths, even the air might become visible. It would look like a murky, milky, soupy stuff swirling about as the wind blew. And so you have to be aware, who do you want to be invisible from at what wavelengths? Because if you are only focused on certain wavelengths, you could probably achieve some invisibility. I'm not sure it could be achieved by means of a cloth, like Harry Potter's cloak of invisibility, or by drinking a chemical that makes you invisible. I don't think that is all that feasible. So, well, we could think of ways that it could be accomplished. There are basically, if you're doing optical invisibility, you have to change the way light flows. Light flows in basically a straight line. But if you had surrounded yourself by a surface that could pick up light from all directions and that, analyze it, and send it back out, as if you weren't there, you could be invisible. I have also thought of something called destructive interference paint. When things reflect off of an object, like even a green leaf, the wave of light goes by. But if you have the opposite wave of light, it cancels out. So then you don't see anything. So I'm not sure you could say you don't see anything. I'm thinking you would see kind of like dark, like a shadow, a murky shadow moving about. So it's not really a good example of true invisibility, but you'd have trouble seeing something that was masked with destructive interference paint. Another technology might be where you could take the light and divert it. You would create an optical illusion of some kind that would stand as something else in front of you. I suppose if you stood behind an object, they couldn't see you as well, but you'd have to put that object there and hide behind it. Those are some invisibility ideas. Some people have thought, well, you have access to time technology. You could surround something with a field that would shift it a few seconds or minutes forward or backward in time. So, for all intents and purposes, it's not there now. It's just shifted by time. That's another form of technology. The other thing you can realize is that invisibility is a perception thing. And where are things perceived? They're perceived in your eyes. That's where they're focused and brought in. But in the long run, eventually everything goes into your head. Your brain processes it. So, that's why we've seen some cases where things are cloaked with what's called a perception filter. People see you're there plain as day, but because of the interference, they don't see you. But you have to be careful, though. There's something there. They know there's a person there. They just don't know it's you. That's kind of the weird thing about perception filters. I sometimes think that I have a perception filter on my YouTube channel because I get so few views from all the millions of viewers out there. The other thing is, if you did have invisibility, what would you use it for? Hiding in some way. But it could be dangerous. Could you imagine if you had a car that had an invisibility field? You push the button and your car becomes totally invisible. Do you realize how dangerous that would be? Other people cannot see you. And they would switch lanes and stop, and you would probably get smashed up pretty quick if you had an invisible car and you were in it. You have all these invisible parts and junk all over the road. It's terrible. So I just thought I would give you a talk about how invisibility works. Sometimes it's by means of canceling out reflection or substituting what's behind me. You can project like a screen in front of me, like a curtain. You wouldn't see anything. Or do you do it by putting a field around you that moves the light around, takes your image from here and puts it way over there. But you're physically present here. Or, different ways of doing it. And some people say it's like something like magic, and a lot of our technologies are, or would be perceived as magic in other times, because the science behind them is a little bit tricky at times. So, I hope you enjoy this talk about invisibility. If you know of any other methods of invisibility, please post them below, rate and comment all you like. We could have a good conversation about how to be invisible. Another way I just thought of is they talk about the fly on the wall. That's a simple one. You simply shrink yourself to be really itty bitty bitty bitty, and you go on the wall and you can see and hear all kinds of stuff. The only danger is somebody might have a fly swatter. Wouldn't be too pretty, would it? Well, I better be going. Until later. We'll be seeing you. And now I just want to continue a little bit about some invisibility postscript that I had forgot to mention before. The sun is so bright it's making me visible. And the question is about invisibility techniques. There's something else that you could be invisible from. It's called sensors. Now sensors can be either active or passive. Like even this camera has an eye perception sensor that sees me. It's still kind of a passive sensor. And there are things that are active sensors that do some sort of a ink-act protocol to get reactions, and then they can tell what they're sensing based on the reactions. Well, I want to go much more into sensors in another SciFi feasibility video, so I'll just leave that at that point. Also, it occurs to me to be rather pointless to have invisibility in deep space. Here on Earth, we have an atmosphere, and we're close to the sun, so we're very visible. And now, let's see if I can be more invisible at this time. That's better. Now, the other thing is, if you're going to be able to see things in the radio wave range, you have to have a different kind of eye. Your eyes are tuned to optical light, and glass and plastic and organic liquid lenses can bend and focus the light. Radio waves, not so much. So for radio waves, I would imagine your eye would have to have an iris that is basically an electromagnet to focus the radio waves into some sort of comprehensible image in your mind. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, to the way short side of cosmic rays and X-rays, what would your eyes have to be like? Because those waves pass through everything as well. Maybe they'd have to be more like with gravity, miniature black holes focusing the waves around, intense gravity fields into some sort of comprehensible image. And okay. Into the aspect of why would you need a cloaking device, invisibility, optical invisibility in deep space? Because once you are far away from the sun or a star, like right now, the lighting here is 8 minutes away from the sun. Obviously out at Pluto, you're 5 hours away from the sun. It would be like nighttime. And if you are like weeks or months or light years away from the sun, it would be total darkness. So if your ship has running lights, turn them off and you're invisible. You're not going to see a ship in the dark of space. I mean, you could even paint it black in the dark of space, and it would be invisible. Then you basically just have to make sure you don't get close to a sun to be seen. So to me, things that have optical invisibility are kind of a waste of money unless you're planning on getting in close, like closer than a few thousand miles, where you could probably be optically seen. My guess is that most starships and those kind of crafts will not have glass optical windows. They'll probably have some kind of a video piped-in window view of the outer space, probably enhanced. Maybe not even the outer space of the nearby area. So I just thought I'd mention that.